Hello, children. Welcome back. This should be a quick one. We're going to be talking about citing evidence. And I know this is stuff that we've gone over in class, but I do want you to have notes on it because it's super important and it's a skill that you just can't live without. So these are required notes. Make sure that you have them. Pay attention to the due date. Bring them when they're due. So one of the things that we're working on in this unit is citations, but this is something that, as with many things in English, spans the course of the class or goes outside of this class and affects other classes. So the way that this can help you is that we are currently working on learning to cite textual evidence and to use style or tone in order to maintain formality. In this case, obviously, we're working specifically on that citation part, but part of using citations helps you maintain your formality. It shows the reader that you take your work seriously, which is important. So let's start with a quick definition of plagiarism here. Plagiarism is purposefully or accidentally using another person's work or ideas as your own. Notice purposefully or accidentally. So purposefully would be doing it like on purpose, right? Like, oh, nobody will ever know. Or it would include things like cheating on a test. Technically, cheating on a test is plagiarism, right? Accidentally, you can do it accidentally, and saying something like, "Oh, I didn't know," isn't going to cut it all the time. So you need to be super careful about how you go about citing your sources. Um, so citing your evidence is the formal way of avoiding plagiarism. And so that's why it helps you maintain your formality in your writing. So there are three citation options when you're working in a text. And I know we've gone over this in class, but I really, really want you to have this in your notes also. So you've got in-text citations, you've got parenthetical citations, and you've got a combination of both. So an in-text citation goes something like this. On page 237 of his book, Frank Galchen states that prediction is the most important feature of the human brain. And so you can see in the text, I have written that it's on page 237 and that the author is Frank Galchen. Really, the information that you need in any in-text citation is the author's last name and the page number. In this case, I've added a little bit more information, but the last name and the page number are still there, and they're written into the sentence. If I wanted to be a little bit more simple about it, I could do a parenthetical citation, and it would look something like this. Quote, prediction is the most important feature of the human brain. Galchen 237. In that case, I've just included his last name and the page number. That's it. And sometimes that works. Like sometimes that's all you need to do. And then, of course, there's the combination approach where you don't want to do one or the other. You'd rather do both. And that's perfectly fine. And it might look something like this. Frank Galchen asserts that prediction is the most important feature of the human brain. And so, again, you can see the author's name, including the last name, is there in the sentence. And then in parentheses after, you've got the page number where this quote comes from. You could also flip it around, and you could write the page number in the actual citation and the author's last name in the parentheses if you wanted to do that. You've got three options, and it helps really mix up your writing and make your writing a little bit more interesting to read. But it's something that you need to make sure that you're doing. One final note about this, it doesn't just go with direct quotations. If you're paraphrasing something, you need to cite that as well. So even if it's, you've put it in your own words, if the information is coming from somebody else, make sure that you're citing it. The other part of this is that the in-text citations, the ones that go in your paper, you have to do them. But they are citations of the larger work as a whole. And so at the end of your paper, you should always include a works cited page as well. And what I'm giving you here is just the basic layout of a works cited. It gives you the order of things that you should include. So the author's last name, the first name, the title of what you're reading, the source that it comes from, or I think in class I've called it the container, the publisher, the date, and the page location. And for almost anything, you should be able to find these things. All right. But it's not always easy to find them. A couple other things, make sure that you're putting the punctuation where it belongs, commas where they belong, things in quotation marks when needed, underlined when needed, periods where they belong, all of that, and that's important, as well as the hanging indentation. Remember that in works cited pages, the first line of each citation is not indented, and the following lines are indented, and you can see that here. So these are the basic requirements of any works cited page. They get a little bit more specific depending on the type of source that you're looking at. And so if you're looking at some kind of really complicated source, unfortunately, it's up to you to figure out how to cite that. And if you're looking at something and you don't know exactly how to cite it, then this is a really good website to go to. It's the OWL at Purdue. They have lots of really good sources, not only on citation, but on just Englishy stuff in general. And so I recommend going there. I tend to say that online citation makers are not allowed, and I know that they're super easy and quick, and you would rather do that, but the thing is, if you make the mistake, you're the one ultimately responsible, and those online citation makers are really, they're questionable sometimes at best. So I recommend that you stay away from online citation makers and learn to do this on your own. It's a good skill to have. For your reflection, here's the question that you should focus on. How do proper citations and works cited help add to a formal tone? I'll see you in class with your notes.